Hi there. We've been getting a lot of questions about what exactly is Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 instruction, so we thought that a quick video on multi-tiered systems of support would be helpful. We are coming to you from an Ontario context. So in our current system, students in need of support are typically referred by their teacher to team meetings, an IST and SST. Access to this support is often really slow and does tend to hinge on a psychoeducational assessment, which are often very slow in the public board. Economically advantaged families can access this support and evaluation externally, which really stratifies our public education system between families who can pay for services and families who can't. A move towards an MTSS, a multi-tiered system of support, is an important priority to encourage prevention of reading failure and resource allocation management to allow all children to be successful. So, MTSS is a framework for building effective academic and behavioral systems of support to allow all children to be successful. In Ontario, you might hear references to RTI, response to intervention, which is really quite similar and is often used synonymously. There are many components of MTSS, which we'll talk about in the next few minutes, but the big thing to be aware of is that in an MTSS, students are viewed in the context of their instructional environment. So we know that there are so many things that we can't change that do impact a child's learning. Their socioeconomic status, their language, their cognitive profile, for example. But one of the most powerful factors is absolutely adaptable to within our control, and that is the quality and the intensity of the instruction we provide. So you will often see a triangle graphic used when referring to MTSS. The triangle symbolizes the tiered delivery model of flexible additive layers of support. All students in an MTSS receive research-backed differentiated core instruction. The goal of this instruction is to act as primary prevention, providing low-cost instruction to reduce student risk as much as possible. Strong Tier 1 instruction is the backbone of a multi-tiered system of support. Some students, though, will not reach benchmark with just this support. In this case, these students can receive Tier 2 intervention in addition to, not instead of, their Tier 1 instruction. This is a more targeted small group intervention. These students need accelerated progress. They need to move faster than their peers to catch up. A few students will need Tier 3 instruction in addition to their core instruction. This is very intensive intervention for students who are significantly at risk. Think daily intervention in either very small groups or individually. The goal of this instruction is to close the gap as quickly as possible. It's really important to note that the percentages we've given here, they refer to the number of students reaching benchmark with these supports. They are not just the number of students. We don't expect 80% of students to become proficient readers. We expect 100% of students to become proficient readers, and we give them all the rigorous instruction we can through this tiered model of support to make that happen. Another key point, access to Tier 2 or Tier 3 services is not dependent on referral or full-scale psychoeducational assessments, but instead it's dependent on data-based analysis from assessment that focuses specifically on how students are responding to their instructional contexts. The goal is to provide instruction and support as quickly and as flexibly as possible. Students should be able to receive even intensive Tier 3 support as early as kindergarten. There is no way to fail in an MTSS. With such a core focus on using data for decision-making in an MTSS, it's important to consider the type of assessment data we would need. If you're interested in learning more about assessment, we do have a separate assessment video, but the highlight is that primarily in an MTSS, universal screening data allows us to quickly and effectively judge which students are at risk and which systems are at risk. When problem solving for students, diagnostic assessments can be used to help clarify what specific skills need to be targeted in an intervention. Progress monitoring assessment allows teams to quickly evaluate whether students are making sufficient progress towards goals and if instruction should be adjusted or intensified. And outcome assessments allow for an analysis of whether students have mastered provincial curriculum expectations. So it's also important to note that it's not just necessary to collect data, but it's critical to analyze that data and use it in collaborative problem solving. The collaborative problem-solving model is a cycle of steps teams take in order to enact change. So firstly, a problem is defined as a difference between what is expected and what is actually seen in the data. Problems are seen in the context of changeable factors, especially instruction. These problems are often apparent and visible based on the universal screening data. Problem analysis allows for clarification of why this problem is occurring, so an action plan can be developed and implemented. And plan evaluation takes place so that the progress can be monitored and the plan can be changed and adapted if needed. This collaborative problem solving is the backbone of shared leadership and teamwork seen at multiple levels of an MTSS. And those include leadership teams at the board, school, grade, and individual student level. These different teams work at different levels of the system, and they use different assessments to support this purpose, but they all use this collaborative problem-solving process. Note that this process can and should be used not only at an individual student level, but also at a systems level. We don't just want to know what students are at risk and how they respond to a plan we enact, but we also want to identify which systems are at risk, which grade levels, which classes, which schools are at risk, and how those systems respond to change efforts to improve instruction for all. The importance of implementing an MTSS is clear. The goal is to improve student outcomes. Implementation of an MTSS allows for a clear prioritization of prevention. With a strong assessment system, there is a clear capacity to quickly and easily flag students who are at risk and provide the instruction they need to close the gap before their reading problems are exacerbated over time. An MTSS allows for more effective allocation of resources, since with strong core instruction, reading problems can be prevented. This allows for a reduced number of students who need intervention, which preserves the limited resources available for those who really need them. In our current system, due to ineffective core instruction, many more students are needing intervention. The volume of students needing intervention effectively dilutes the intensity of intervention that can actually be provided. A core focus of MTSS is using research-based instruction. To take this a step further, the efficacy of this instruction is constantly being monitored at both a student and a systems level to ensure strong outcomes. And finally, the nature of an MTSS means that students have more equitable access to instruction. In our current system, a referral can lead to inequitable access to support and intervention. With universal assessment, these data give students voice. In an MTSS, risk, progress, and outcomes are monitored for all students and can be disaggregated so we can examine differences in achievement between subgroups. Equity matters. In terms of considering a shift to an MTSS framework, there are a few key considerations. Since successful MTSS depends on providing evidence-based instruction, it's critical to build teacher and administrator knowledge and capacity around this type of instruction. Learning more about the evidence surrounding reading development and evidence-based instructional practices is so important. MTSS also depends on a rigorous assessment system. Selecting assessments for the variety of purposes is needed. Additionally, any assessor needs to be trained in the specific assessment to ensure reliable and valid data. With data available, collaborative problem solving can occur at multiple levels of the system. Creating teams, whether that be at the board, school, grade, or individual student level, who share the leadership, can identify and analyze problems, design plans to address them, and evaluate growth and progress. So you might be sitting here thinking, that's great, that's all well and good, but it's just me right now. I'm on my own and I can't change my school and I can't change my board and I can't change the system above me. And we hear you, absolutely. But it's worth stating that there's been a tremendous grassroots initiative towards improving reading instruction, and we're excited by that. And we so appreciate individual teachers' commitment to that, especially since many teachers don't have much support coming from their administration or from their board. There's still value in considering an MTSS. There's still value in considering some of the key principles of an MTSS for your classroom. Consider reconceptualizing your assessment practices and collecting universal screening data. That data will give you an opportunity to analyze student risk and to adjust your instruction. For example, if you're noticing that a significant proportion of your grade 1 class is below benchmark on measures of phonemic awareness, a class-wide intervention might be appropriate, and you might want to monitor progress and see how that goes. Or consider if a large subset of your grade 3 class is reading accurately, but with weak fluency on an oral reading fluency screener like equitable. You may develop a plan to teach a paired fluency building routine like repeated reading and monitor its effectiveness over time. The big thing to remember, the best way to spread effective Effective practices really is to share their success, and that comes from data. Consider what you can do in your classroom, and then think about how you can share your students' growth with others to build a collective shift towards both evidence-based instruction and evidence-based systems like RTI or MTSS. Thank you so much for watching this video. We are so appreciative of all you are doing to support your students, and please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions at all.